First, want to thank everybody who made this episode possible, right? Because it wasn't just you and me. It was like, it took a village.
It takes a village, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to do this on short notice. I really appreciate it. And it's
Thank
been a
you for
long time
asking
coming.
me. Look,
So why don't you start wherever you want to start? Because we've been having conversations about AI for weeks and months now. And
yeah,
there's so much to talk about, but there are specific pieces. Like I want to just name the critique that a lot of people have about AI is that it's fake, it uses up a lot of energy, right? Natural resources. And so I really would love for you to come in and just kind of like speak about pros and cons and sort of your specific angles because I've really like received so much education from you about how to use it and sort of what our um limited understanding about it is.
sure. And I am not the expert. Like I feel like every marketer and his mom wants to like make you think that they're the expert. Like I'm not. I wasn't into AI until it became available to the public like everybody else. And I am in the midst of this existential day-to-day decision making just like everybody else. So I'm just an unrepentant autodidact with a few insights. I don't position myself as the expert on anything. Um, because it's changing too fast.
Yeah.
and and quite frequently the issue is not the tool but the wielder. And I think perhaps we are maybe giving scissors to chimpanzees, like or like lightsabers to chimpanzees.
Yeah.
Because we have not as a species invested enough in our intellectual and emotional evolution. And we knew that when our technology outpaced our humanity, we were going to have a problem. So that
Mm.
remains,
Yes.
right? That
Yeah.
remains. But that being said, I think when people sometimes say something negative about AI, they're actually just kind of like showing you how much they don't know because it's such a broad topic. And most people are really talking about a specific tool. They're saying, I don't like AI. And then you're like, well, why? And they'll say, I don't like ChatGPT. And it's like, okay, that's one. I mean, granted, it's one of the major players, but that's one application of AI. There's tons of scientific applications. There are environmental applications. There are medical applications. There are applications all over. And if you're typing into your cell phone on social media about how much you are not using I hate to break it to you, but you're 100% using AI in that moment. And so, what a lot of people think is like, an irreverent flex is just like they're just kind of showing their ignorance. And it's
Hmm.
okay because we're all super ignorant because this is all new. I
Yes.
think the mistake is everyone pretending that they know more than they know. So I don't want to be guilty of that. Um,
No, thank you for saying that because, I am one of those people that is interested in the debate around AI. I don't use AI a lot, but I know that I could help myself by using more. But then I have that hesitation around the environmental pieces. And I don't know, like when I see all everybody and their mother, like you said, um, is coming out of the woodwork with their AI offer. Oh, people are using AI, or, only thing that AI is ChatGPT, but it's all these other things, and let me sell you this thing. And so I understand that there's so much more, but I don't know what those things are. And maybe you can share maybe start there and sharing like, okay, these are all the ways that AI can be used.
that we would be here all day. So I don't want to
Yeah.
be pretend to be exhaustive, but I'll stick to my narrow lane, which is, some of the business application tools
Yes.
that I use all the time. Um, Obviously, the LLMs, the large language models are what most people are having access to, but a lot of those things are getting integrated into other technology. So you may not like ChatGPT, but like there are other platforms that are integrating AI into the way they already function, and you may enjoy what you can do. Earlier this week, I started posting, and people were interested in my offer. I hadn't even planned on a sales page. I typically have 2 weeks of teasing, before I put a sales page link out, because that is how long it usually takes to get people's attention. Um, but people were super amped, like, I need a link, I need information, I want to know more about it. My occasional VA has two small children, like under the age of 10. And so I can't just drop on her, I need a sales page right now, and expect her to have it in 48 hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's not human, not conscious, not reasonable. Well, I just dropped into one of the many platforms I experiment with, and it was like, boop, boop, beep. I'm now, granted, I used to be a copywriter in my previous incarnation, so it might be a little bit easier for me to whip up content than for other people. But I was able to whip up what I needed. I was able to drop it into that platform. I was able to generate the images that I needed for that sales page. Boom, bang, bing, it's done. I can send it off and like make some sales. And that way my VA has like, she's like, all right, we'll drop it X amount of days later. We've got to like set up the automation. Like all of those things have to happen. But they used to take weeks. And now you could get that done
Mm-hmm.
depending on your existing acumen in a day, 3 days, how much time you got. And so that is valuable to a business owner. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also think that people are trying to put all business in the same category, like they're trying to conflate all AI. What a mega corporation can use AI for is different than what a solopreneur, how a solopreneur might use AI.
Yes.
Different audiences, different economies, different desires for scale, different human resources that are available. And so I think if you're a solopreneur, it's like a godsend. I mean, minus the many software subscriptions you will have.
Yeah. And I mean, something that we were just talking about this morning was like just being front facing in your business. This is a lot of what people talk about, being authentic, showing up as your real self. Um, all of that is one of the many arguments that are used against AI, right? Or against using AI. And so
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from you, sort of your perspective on that, because that's been like a sort of like a corner of the internet, is basically like authenticity versus AI.
No, no, I want to talk about the privileged posse, right? Because there's really only a very specific segment of people. And whenever there is a technology that disrupts access and information and ability, it disrupts economy. And the one of the things that people are not talking about, I'll speak specifically to our vertical, or at least the vertical in which we first encountered one another, which is
Yeah.
the coaching and transformational space, which you and I have talked so many times on the record about bias in that particular space, bias versus merit, and how bias shapes that space more than merit.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, this is going to be a bitter pill, so just get your water, not you, but whoever's listening, because
I
this is
get my
not
water
going
too.
to, look, I got mine too. And this might not go down easy. This might not go down easy, but a lot of the people who excelled in the coaching industry were people who did not have any technical skills or education. They had a look, a sound, a vibe, if you will, that attracted other people of a certain ilk. And they were able to parlay their relative lack of ability into quite a lot of money because of bias. So now those people are faced with the fact that the economy is becoming, and I said this like 4 years ago, increasingly merit based. And you will have to develop skills in order to stay relevant.
Yes.
Um, and also the platforms, the way people used to get their message out, they had so much visibility, but the platforms now want you almost in chains. You're going to be on the platform, you're going to be making content, you're going to be watching content because they want you to be there so you can see the ads that actually subsidize their existence. And so if you have to make that much content, the truth is it's an inhuman expectation. And the only people who could possibly fulfill that are people who have the disposable income. Let's talk about $12,000 a year on photo shoots. Easy. 12 to 20, pretty reasonable, right? So then
Right.
you can't even
Yes.
get in the game if you don't have that,
Right. Right.
right? On photo shoots, right? That's just photo shoots. That's not getting the content actually created. You got to spend $3,000. I remember, I mean, I've had products that I rolled out that cost $3,000 just to make because of how many people we had to pay to create the
Yes.
product. Right?
Yes.
You had to pay the copywriter a couple $1,000s for all the sales copy. I mean, I didn't, but people did, right? People have
Yeah.
paid me
Yeah.
several $1,000s to get all that together. They paid us to automate everything. When I was operating my agency, we would be anywhere from three to about $10,000 to create a full product
Yeah.
from zero for someone because of how many man hours, woman hours it took. To get it together. And so,
Yeah.
so now if we're saying you need 12 to 20 for photos and you need, let's say five, at least 5 to 10 to get a product together. So if you don't have 20, $30,000 lying around before your OBM and with no ads, so what we created was an industry where you could really only excel if you had a certain amount of privilege.
Right. If you had already a certain amount of money, right? If you had
Mhm.
like, those pre, like setup costs, basically business setup costs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so that kept a lot of people out of
And the
the
people that
content
didn't
game.
have that money had to sort of start very slowly and weren't able to make their business profitable until several years in the business,
Mhm.
right? Building it up very, very slowly. Yeah.
Different time windows. And let's be real, they were paying, let's not talk about the minimum of what, 500, 1,000, 1,500 in those big masterminds, $3,000, $5,000 a month to get in the room to pitch. So, I mean, we're talking about,
Yes.
do you have six figures lying around to start your business? Do you have 50,000? You got 30,000? You got 80? That's reasonable.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's like
even if
around
you were a
50,000.
coach, everyone's like, I made six figures, I made multiple six figures, but you dropped half of it on all of those costs
Yes. Yes, exactly. You drop half of it just to set it up.
just
Right.
to set it up. And
Yeah.
then you sold all of that success to somebody else, not you personally, right? They sold all of that success to somebody else. But what they didn't say was they'd say, let me show you how to be you know, a, a lazy magnetic goddess or whatever. Like that could have been the program from like
Mm-hmm.
2017, just like the Lazy Magnetic Goddess Club. And what they weren't saying was, yes, you can take my 10K mastermind, but you're gonna need another 90K to actually have the success that I have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people got
Right.
sucked in, paying their last 10K. We've talked about this so many times, paying their last 10K to get into the mastermind to find out that they couldn't actually afford to be in the industry.
Right. Because it was, yes, it took the money in the mastermind, but then they realized they would need that extra whatever, 50 to 90K to set up the business.
Yes, and this
And
is
they didn't
something I've
have
been
that.
railing about publicly for many years, mostly
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so now all of a sudden, you can create that photo shoot. Now, granted, like a good photo shoot is necessary to train an AI. You want it to be trained on good photos. So you're still going to need
Mm-hmm.
good photos. You're still going to need a
Yeah.
photographer. You're still going to need a VA. You're still going to need a mastermind for sisterly or community support. But the premium on those things drops because of all of this. How do you
Yes.
charge people for information when they can go talk to a bot for $60 a month? And that's like the premium. You get two people for 60
Mm.
bucks a month, right? So like,
Mm-hmm.
why are they talking to you and spending, but that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to help correct the market where the market need to be corrected. And so a lot of the
Yes.
people, the wailing and the gnashing of teeth and the wringing of hands, they just mad because their like grift is on the way out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because this equalizes the AI and the ability to set up businesses in a shorter period of time with less overhead is the great equalizer.
Yes, and I'm not being glib about it. As I said, I was a copywriter before. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do it as much. I mean, I do it for myself now, but
Yeah.
like it's not as necessary. And if somebody wants to pay me to do copywriting for them, I still think copywriters have an excellent place because most people are crappy at AI. Like a copywriter using AI is different than a layperson trying to use AI because they don't know what they're trying to achieve. right?
Right,
So people
right.
will blame it and say, oh, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, it's bad or it's good. And I'm like, no, most of you guys don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah, like
not
I
the
suck at
silver computer.
Photoshop, right? Like you can give me
Yeah.
this amazing program and I'll be like, I can like put some shapes together, but it'll suck. It'll just suck.
Also me. I'm
Yeah.
so glad for the image generation because I was like, this is very boop boop beep for me at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think a lot of the sticks and stones that are being thrown about AI are from a certain generation and a certain type. And that's not to say that there aren't serious concerns to be had and serious conversations to be had about AI.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
that those are not the conversations that people are having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And can we shift to, the piece around like, even talking about sort of like uh what's fake, what's not fake. Um
Oh,
let's
sure.
let's address that for a second.
I've joked about that a lot as
Yeah.
I come on here with that. And I can talk trash today because I don't have my fake eyelashes on. So I can freely talk trash. But I mean, like all of my any AI you see of me is trained on images, photos that I actually like took of me. So I have
Yes.
spent the years. The reason I know how much the photo shoots cost is because I have done the photo shoots, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's very strange from an existential perspective when we just pull back and go, well, that's not real. And it's like, well, you rented a place you don't live, right? We rented places we didn't live in because nobody wants to take pictures of me in my toddler's room with toys thrown all over the place. That's not on brand. Um, right? You took pictures in a place you didn't live, in clothes you don't normally wear, a hair with a hairstylist that you don't normally go to, wearing makeup that you would never wear like every day.
Yeah.
These were always cultivated, curated personas,
Yeah.
right? That's why the bigger brands, they don't even bother. Like, think of every big brand you use. You don't know who's the face of it. Who's the face of Coca-Cola? Who's the face of even like L'Oreal? Who's the face of Pantene? They just grab a model, whoever has a face right then, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
whoever's hot right now. They just grab a face and put it out there. They don't
Yeah.
feel like they're being fake for using an attractive face to sell a product. The difference in
Right.
the transformational space is that what people are normally selling is intimacy, is trust,
Yes.
is access.
Yes.
So I
Okay.
understand in those verticals why people are reticent to create distance. But as far as it being fake, I don't think there's any, I think we're all in glass houses and should maybe keep our stones to ourselves when it comes to the whole fake
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, but that
That's a great.
created a fake economy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And what about the intimacy piece then? Right? Like how do you still maintain that connection to the people that are listening, or the people who need your work? How do you still create that intimacy and use
I mean, for
AI?
me, I don't. I don't. And I think that there's a big conversation to be had around that. Not all of us want to be the product. I want to be the producer. I want to produce things that get people results. I don't want to be the product. We've talked
I
about
mean,
this.
yeah, I think that a lot of people are burnt out because of the front-facing aspect of having to create or thinking they need to create intimacy by being right in the front. And that's me too, right? That's part of what I'm pulling away from is it's like, I don't want to have my face splattered all over the place. There was a time where I enjoyed it. It was fun. And then my body said no. It was just like
Enough.
it's not wasn't gonna happen. It was enough. Exactly. So how do we still maintain that intimacy without being making videos constantly or right doing
Yeah,
all
I
that?
mean, there's a couple of different ways. One is that we don't, right? Like to me, I think
Yeah.
menopause is something that's definitely happening for a lot of my peers, perimenopause and menopause.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize that estrogen might be good. And then one day it's just gone,
Mm.
and all the give a shit is just gonna slide right off. And the like, I wish someone had warned me that one day I was just gonna wake up and be like, I'm fresh out, like I don't have any more. Um, and you might decide that peddling intimacy and all of this emotional labor that women are already doing a lot of in society is not what you want to be
Right.
doing. I think that a lot of women got pushed into coaching because we are already giving emotional labor. And so we know
Yes.
how to give it. And so then we just started charging for it. We were like, well, I'm giving all this emotional labor for free. I want to get paid. I
Ah,
want to charge my worth. And that makes total sense. But when I look at how men are using I have not seen a man yet shame another man around using I only see women doing it. I only
right.
see women doing it. Men are out here making videos of God knows what. They finally got their Roman Empire. They got jetpacks and whatever else, and they're just having an absolute ball making like tons of slop. Not that all men are making slop, but I'm just saying they are so unrepentant and completely unpoliced. And women are constantly policing each other for this endless pursuit of completely impossible perfection.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the
So I
perfection
think
piece,
that
isn't
there's a
it?
lot of um dare I say it, promotion of patriarchy internally happening in the transformational industry around AI as well.
Yeah. Just gatekeeping.
And kind of like trying to shame people into giving access, kind of forcing them into intimacy. Whereas if you're a creative, it's a totally different ball game. You are the bottleneck. If you're a solopreneur and you offer one-to-one services, there's an automatic bottlenecking that happens. And you can
Yeah.
raise your price till the cows come home, but a lot of people are also facing the fact that their economy is in decline, that their political system is in tumult, that all of a sudden being a certain all of the biases that used to work for them are not necessarily working for them anymore. And so
Hmm.
and I noticed that all the people who, many, I won't say all, but in my circle, most of the people who've always had to survive on merit and skill are actually embracing AI and always looking for more ways to get ahead. So there's definitely some class
Yeah.
bias that kind of happens that's happening in that particular industry. But also, I think people are only thinking of one thing they can do because so many people are pushing this digital twin. I have a program out right now that's all about portraiture, not necessarily a twin. It's about making any kind of image of a person
Hmm.
or anthropomorphized being because some of them
Yeah.
are like fairies and all the crazy stuff that I'm into. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of to me, I feel a lot of breath. Like we can just create anything. I posted something the other day and it was like a person, it was like a garden person made of a
Yes.
garden
I
growing
saw that kind of
flowers out of their, yeah,
flowering.
growing flowers out of their head. And to me, it was like intuition, how it like springs into and blooms. And so I get excited about all of that abstraction and not feeling bound by my face because when you're looking at me, you see my body. You don't see who I am and you don't see how I see myself. But with AI, I can
Mm.
show you how I see myself, which actually gives you potentially a much more intimate window into who I am as a practitioner and how whether or not you want to be in my space, right?
Oh my God. I never thought about that, but I love it. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
you
really,
get to
really
see the
true.
real me. I actually see myself in a garden of flowers with bright pink hair. So if you like that kind of bitch, let's do it. Right? Like I'm not your normie
Yeah.
coach. I've got like all kinds of weird stuff coming out. And so that's just like the freak flag for the other neurodivergent weirdos to be like, hey, if you want a safe place to co-create, I'm here. You
So
know?
using AI as another angle on authenticity.
Oh, for sure. Way more because it's like limited. If I see you making slop, like there's a person I've really been on the fence. Oh, it's like, and you and I have talked about it where I'm like, oh, I kind of want to work with this person, but I kind of don't. Like, I don't actually feel safe and seen in this person's space, but they have all these skills, right? And so recently, AI has come out. People are making whatever is in their hearts to make. And the stuff that this particular person made only confirmed to me that if that is, they could create
Um,
anything. If that is what they created, I am definitely not. I don't need to vibe with them. We're not even on the same, not high low, but we're just not on the same plane. Because given
Mm-hmm.
limitless creativity, the things that they chose were so unnecessarily offensive that I was like, that's not a safe space for me. So, the argument that AI is not giving us intimacy, I think misses the mark a little bit.
Okay. Okay. That's really good. And let's talk also about being a parent and chronic illness and all that shit. Let's talk about it.
Ugh. Yeah, I mean, and this is a real thing. This is why I'm always so shocked that more mothers are not
Yeah.
excited about AI. I feel like there's
Yeah.
so much opportunity here. And I focus on image generation because that's the thing I like just really love. But if you're a writer, whatever world is in your heart, you could get that world out and start sharing it with other people.
Right.
Um, and people with other limitations have more access. I have spent, as you well know, because we are friends IRL as well as online, that this is the most sick I've ever been. I spent the vast majority of the last year off and on very ill, more sick than I've ever been.
Yeah.
And kind of in like a way we couldn't put our finger on. And part of it was because I decided to nurse my child I breastfeed my child for an extended period. And it was really hard on my body. And then that's like when the downtime, but the uptime, breastfeeding, parenting, like how go live, show up, be consistent. What are you talking about? I haven't slept
Right.
in 3 effing years. You want me to be consistent? I am consistent. I'm consistently tired.
Just trying to
And
feed myself.
I'm trying to get enough calories to keep feeding this baby, right? And when you've got platforms that start to ignore you when you fall silent, like there's just a lot of,
Yeah.
quite frankly, undue and unfair pressure on humans. Um, we're all trying to stay human in a world that, as I've said, values the pace of machines. And not for nothing, I think perhaps we were being groomed for AI. I think that
Mm-hmm.
the inhuman requirements were potentially created to give us the necessity for a technology that just happens to be owned by the same people. Uh, but that's another conspiracy for another conversation. But that being what it is, how do you keep up? How do you continue to create? How do you find joy? You and I were laughing earlier because I had a robe on, and under my big robe, I had on a silk robe. So I had two robes on. And I was like, this is really what I love AI. I want anything I can do in my robe. And so I think there is something to speak to that, to how ableist it is to be anti-AI and how privileged you must be to be able to afford to pay someone to do all those things for you. Um, and so I just see people kind of their desperation showing and their teeth showing and their true character showing and even their absolutely valid fears and concerns
Mm-hmm.
as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I would love to speak to some of those and
Can
like be
we?
real
Yeah. Yeah. Because I
about
know
some of
that
those.
as you don't call yourself an expert and you know a lot more than most people do about AI, especially in our shared circles. And so, yeah, I would love for you to share about some of the conflicts that you feel.
Yeah, I was supposed to launch my current program like 2 or 3 months ago. And I couldn't. It was round about the time that the MIT study came out showing that people were having negative consequences from using a very specific large language model that I use all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to launch this, but I'm scared. I don't want to lead people down a broken path. I don't want to cause anyone harm. And so I waited. And so like let me just list kind of the concerns. Obviously,
Yes.
mental health is a concern. Physical, like neurological health is a concern. I mean, that's kind of a concern with all the devices, if we're honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Just like the
environment,
addiction piece. Yeah.
Yeah, the addiction piece and the environment, you know, and yeah, I guess everything kind of falls into that. The environmental piece is probably the easiest for me. I've been able to, being a hermit, being a borderline hermit, my carbon footprint is not that high. I don't own a car, right? I love the place where I live. I live near an ocean and like 30 minutes from town. So if I need to go into town, if I want to go to the beach, I walk down. And you know me, on the occasional time that I want to go out, I go out. But I'm not driving a vehicle every day. I don't have a commute. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not impacting the environment that way. So that's one of the ways I personally offset. I also don't eat a lot of beef. People don't want to talk about it, but I've read in many places, and you can ask your LLM about it, but eating certain food choices are much more harmful for the environment than using AI. So I don't I've stopped eating really almonds, and I've way cut back on my beef.
Mm-hmm.
Except when if there's a medical reason that I'm being specifically toward,
Yeah.
geared towards
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
So those two things alone, I choose mostly legumes over rices. There's like one or two rices that I do like that I
Yeah.
have occasionally, but like those things, those three little things of not eating things that take a ton of water to grow, not having a vehicle or a commute, um, yeah, all of those kind of offset for me the environmental impact of deciding to use AI. If
Mm-hmm.
someone said to me, hey, you can have like a second brain, you can have several second brains, but you'll have to make some sacrifices. I'm just the kind of nerd that I would do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think another thing that I would want to acknowledge is that oftentimes, and I know that I've been guilty of this, of I know that everybody, let's say, recycling or reducing their use of plastics or, right, reduce, reuse, recycle, that kind of thing. I know that we all have an impact on that, right? Us not having a car, et cetera, that all has impact. And we also need to recognize that individual people have an impact, but we're not doing the big damage to the environment that bigger corporations are and have been having on the environment. Um, so I feel like that's another piece that we need to acknowledge is like we put a lot of um, we point a lot of fingers to individual people,
Yeah.
but it's like let's also look, and this is sort of keeps us in this infighting kind of space, but it's like let's point to the bigger corporations that are doing a lot more to pollute, to harm. You know, the technology, we have technology, right? Speaking of AI and all sorts of tech, we have the technology to do much better for the environment, and we don't use it for those things.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think this is where the eco hypocrisy comes in around AI,
Yes,
because the
yes,
same people who we've referenced previously, their entire lifestyle, their whole aspiration was harmful, right? They want to fly to wherever to have the photo shoot. They want to fly somebody out, right? Like I haven't gotten on a plane since COVID, right? Well, I mean, I'm lucky. We live in the place everyone goes on vacation, so I don't have to go anywhere. Um, they want the big, McMansion. They want the big SUV. They want to eat steak dinners every week. All of that stuff was all not good for the environment, but all of a sudden, because they haven't mastered AI and they haven't, because it's not necessary to their existing, the way that they live their life, it's easy for them to poo-poo it because they don't use it, but they're not
yeah,
really talking about reforming the things they actually do. I mean, and that's just like the small stuff. That's not talking about extracting from developing nations and leaving people in poverty and suffering. So like
exactly.
we
Just
could
like
go on.
right. I just saw a video yesterday about like mines in Africa that where small children are like being dropped into shafts and they're like mining for this mineral that we use to power our cell phones. Right. Like I feel like what I want to say about that, and maybe we can sort of close it out here, is that we're all complicit. Whether we use all of these models that you're talking about or not, we're all still complicit in the use and the damage. And so by pointing fingers, we're not really being accountable for how we're participating, right? Whether it's, and I speak of myself here, like as a minimalist, I still like, I still have things with plastic on them, and so like, it's frustrating. And it's kind of like the way that things are set up. And so there's a way that we can't escape it because we're all in this matrix together.
Well, we have to start revisioning what we want the
Yes.
earth to be like as all of
Yes.
these false structures crumble around us. And
Yes.
AI will have a place there, I believe, as will many other things, creativity. And if we can spark that creativity, all the better. One of the things, AI isn't the only place that I create, but it's the place I started. I did not
Yeah.
think, and I'm the daughter of an art teacher. Who grew up literally in an art classroom. Like if I got sick, I had to go to art class because that's where my mom was when I was a kid. So I never really got out of school for being sick, which kind of sucked. But I never thought of myself as an artist. I was always a writer. I was always the
Mm.
word person. And it wasn't until I started playing around with image generating AI that I started to feel like maybe there might be an artist in there. I started paying attention to colors
Mm.
and shapes and textures in a way I'd never been invited to participate before. And I think there is a lot of negative impact. We talk about how, generative art has stolen from artists, but let me just be real. Look at who's behind all these companies. They have stolen from all of us. Like I've been writing posts on Facebook every day for like years, and all of that's just data that just gets sucked up into a machine. So all of our labor has been aggregated. This has happened to everyone, not just visual artists.
Yeah.
These are aggregation models more than they are artificial intelligence. They're aggregated intelligence models.
Yeah.
So they're aggregating from all of us. There are lots of ways it could be done better instead of AI so-called taking people's jobs or people getting laid off. If these companies are going to be creating multiple billions of dollars from our labor, which is what data is, as we're trying to figure out where does the money for social programs and education, all of these companies should have a scholarship that just goes out for artists to support the arts, to support artists. All of these large language models should have scholarships that just go out to support writers. Like there's so many ways that we could choose as a species to
Mhm.
reinvest in one another. And that unwillingness to reinvest and support is much more the issue than whether or not the innovation has value, right?
Mhm. 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 Yeah, and there's two places that I want to go with you. I obviously want you to talk about what you're creating because I think it's really, really unique. And I want to also, yeah, let's just go there first, and then we'll talk about something else in a moment. But yeah, talk about how you are using AI and what you are helping other people learn about AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Because I will forget. I'll talk about this forever. I'm like, oh, let me get into a little shameless pitch mode. Um, so earlier this year, because you and I, we both have kids, our kids are friends and are growing up together currently. And one of the things that we have to deal with as parents is screen time. And so, I joke that AI was like the beginning of me seeing myself as an artist, as like feeling that creative nudge and just kind of like surrendering to it. And out of that, in the last couple of years, I've created so many things. I've got 2 card decks that are in process and kind of on sidelines while I do this main thing. I've got a course for children that came out of conversations that you and I were having early in the year about how could our artsy kids, because this is what our kids get together and do art. Your kids are magnificent. Um, Real loves of mine, great kids. And we have spent so many days just like painting or drawing or decorating or like singing, dancing, like being present in our lives. And so earlier this year, I pulled together my initial course, which was intuitive AI, and readapted it for children. And I used AI to create it, but it's an AI optional product where you could just
Yes.
use it to teach children, kind of an introduction to art, to color theory, to vocabulary, to storyboarding, to photography and cinematography. And the AI piece is optional, but they can use AI to validate everything that they're learning. So it was
Yes.
it was created to be modular and to have kids learn by doing. And it was very much inspired by my fear that perhaps we were doing harm with the use of these models. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, okay, I got to revamp the way we are approaching teaching AI. And so the way that
Yes.
I teach AI is to create frameworks that are modifiable. But in order to modify them, you've got to know what you're changing. So, both in my class for adults and in my class for kids, I'm not teaching them to just push a button and get an outcome. Because they've literally done studies on this. We know that dopamine was given to us, it's our gift for creating. It's to inspire us to get excited. And when we create something, to be like, I did that, I feel good, like, right?
Yeah.
And so we also know that if you give the little rat the cocaine experiment,
Yeah.
it'll just keep
Yeah. The
pushing the button.
lever. Yeah.
Right? It'll just keep
Yeah.
pushing it. So we have to be careful that AI doesn't become the drug and we just keep pushing the button on our
Yeah.
brains. Modular approaches require the making of a decision and therefore the understanding of what is being asked and a way to somewhat predict or expect an outcome. So by
Yeah.
putting that process into the systems that I have designed to create AI, it alleviates some of that absenteeism, that intellectual absenteeism that you find in a lot of the AI programs or in a lot of the AI platforms where they're just like,
Mm-hmm.
plug in a picture and we'll give you a result. And it's like, but you don't know how to create the result yourself. You don't there's no presence, there's no
Yeah.
intention. And because it's AI, these concepts of presence and intention are maybe not as highly prized in those circles. But if we're being educators, then presence and intention are absolutely necessary. And so that's
Yeah.
the difference in the way that I create resources for people. Because whether you're a child's brain that's developing, which we have to be really easy on that. We have to be really conscious.
Yeah.
We're making a lot of far-reaching decisions every moment with them. Or if you're an aging brain, God, right? If you're outside of that sweet spot, you need to be as conscious about what you're doing as possible. And so I've tried to create systems that, or rather, I've created systems that encourage that.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And your current offer is also about image generation for people who aren't wanting to be front facing. Yeah, so
Yeah.
tell us more about that.
I mean, and not necessarily. You could want to be front facing, but like it's your face. I think it's like there's this disconnect of like I'm not there if I'm using AI. But first off, it takes time to
No.
generate those. But
Yeah.
and also like there's a couple of reasons why you might utilize image generation. One is just like graphic design and something we call B-roll in the industry.
Yeah.
There are tons of accounts that have something playing in the background and a person talking in the front, right?
Yes.
So what does
Yes.
that background need to look like? You can design that. You can make that brand
Mhm.
instead of having to have a developer make you custom stuff that's going to cost God knows how much. You can have things that are on brand that are happening in your background for your content. You can have not your face at all because it's not necessary. You don't have to be the product. You can just be the producer, but
Yes.
you still have to be cognizant of what you're producing. You have to learn how to think. This is what was happening for me. I got to learn how to think like an artist. I wasn't raised, I didn't go to art school. I mean, I went to my mom's art classes, but I didn't go to design school. So I had to
Yeah.
certainly suddenly become conscious and aware of things like depth of field and lighting and like
Yeah.
different types of film and like all kinds of stuff that I didn't know anything about. And so I took it as an opportunity to learn and experiment. And so I've just been, integrating those into what is taught. And so you could do that for your own face so that you have essentially how many times, this is the crazy thing. Business owners be like, I just wish I had like a twin that could like do all the stuff. And then you're like, Okay, I'll
You can
make
do
you
it.
one. And they're like, no, though, no. You know, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just you've been saying for 20 years you wish you had a twin who could do some of the make some of this content for you. And now you're like, oh no, but I don't really want one. Um, and not for nothing. The third thing that people do not think about that they really, really need to think about, if you only think about one reason to utilize AI, I'm gonna say it now. Biometric security. Biometric
Yes.
security. People can steal your face. It has already happened. It's not going to
Yes.
happen. It's not happening in the future. This is a thing that already happens.
Yes.
We've had there was a young Japanese influencer. Somebody took her face and put it on the body of an adult star and created scenes of her doing things she had never actually done, right? Like people, and this is the most horrifying for me, will take images of children right off the internet. And there was a guy that was just caught like earlier this month who was talking about
Mm-hmm.
people, taking images of children and then him putting them into a system and using it to create completely inappropriate material. And so
Yeah.
the days of it's 2015 and I'm going to put my baby's whole face, whole name and birth date, your child's identity is tied to their credit, is tied to their reputation. You can't just put all that information on the internet anymore because it can all be scraped and utilized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, or for me as a woman in my 20s, I had a stalker,
Yeah.
like a legit stalker. Like a call you up and tell you a place that you're going that you haven't gotten to yet, that you don't know the address to, but they know the address because they already know that you're going there.
Oh my God.
Or an influencer that I follow just recently was talking about how she posted where she was. She's a travel influencer, and somebody came to where she was and like approached her. So now there's this new rule. If you're a travel influencer, wait until you leave to post, where you are because people will
Mm-hmm.
come and find you. There's an
Yes.
entire account, and I forget the guy's name, but all he does is look at people's accounts and tell you where they are.
Whoa. That's bizarre.
That's his whole
Yeah.
thing is he'll go, I
Yeah.
can find where you are. Just post a picture and I'll find where you are. He
Yeah.
goes and cross-references images from specific hotels in specific regions and their social media pages. And by putting all of
Yeah.
that information, he'll be like, this is where that person is located.
Wow. Wow.
So, from a security perspective, it is to me, it's an absolutely insane choice to have the option not to disclose your entire life and to just be
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I kind of want to continually self-surveil because I'm into the attention. I got a lot of plants in Scorpio. I don't need it. So, I don't really even want anyone to know I exist at this point. If I could get to that point, it'll be like the big
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
fade into the hedges like Homer Simpson.
And something that you and I have talked about is creating uh AI images of yourself that are slightly whose biometric facial, you know, uh features are
Configuration,
different
yeah.
than
Slightly different, yeah.
configurations are slightly different than yours. So it's kind of like one step removed from your face.
Hmm.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, I think
look, the
that's
great thing about getting older, like that was me 5 years ago. I don't even look like her anymore, so good luck. But that's another conversation to be had. When you make
right.
yourself the brand, you create a brand that cannot be sold or handed off.
Yes.
So as a CEO, people
Exactly.
will say, be the brand. No, no, stop being the brand. Guess what? If your audience responds to a happy brown faced girl with almond shaped eyes, you can pick any brown girl with almond shaped eyes. It doesn't have to be you. They like a type of look or a type of portrayal or a type of imaging. They'll respond to many kinds of images that are not just you. And I think women
Nice.
have so been encouraged to commodify themselves that a lot of them are addicted and cannot break away because all of their self-worth is based on how much everyone likes them online. And
Mhm.
either way, whether you want more liking and you want more you, fine. If you want less liking, more selling, and less you, both things can be achieved through the utilization of AI.
Yes. I love it. This is a really good conversation. And of course, we could go on for hours and hours and hours, but I think that we covered a lot of the pieces here, kind of just touching on a few of the important really key pieces. So thank you so much for doing this and coming together and having this conversation. And I'm going to include, of course, the links to your offer in the show notes. So definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the other thing, if I could say, if I could close
Yes.
on one thing,
Yes, please.
I don't think everybody needs to be using AI. I'm not that person. I think that it would create tremendous mental and environmental harm for many people who are not already fortified or living in a balanced way.
Yeah.
We don't want to get so obsessed with created the meta world, not the
Yeah.
brand, but like the
Yeah. Yes.
non-physical, right? That
Yeah.
we forget to be active in our actual lives. And that's with or without AI. That was happening to plenty of
Yes.
people before
Of
AI was
course.
a thing. Um, but if you're a creator, like a real creator, which all, in my spiritual beliefs, all of us are, there's so much potential there to utilize it not flippantly,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that it comes at a cost
Yes.
environmentally, financially, a human cost to all of these things. Um, Being really intentional.
Yeah.
And one of
Exactly.
the reasons that I created the system I created was so that the 3 years of trial and error that I have engaged in, the compute costs that I have amassed, could actually be spared other people because I've
Yeah.
already like fine-tuned resources and systems that they can utilize so their impact is reduced and their creativity can actually be increased. So hopefully, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that makes a difference, but I certainly hope
Yes.
so.
So you're basically providing a shortcut, like shortcuts for
Yeah.
people. Yes.
Efficiency,
Efficiency. Exactly.
artistic
Exactly.
efficiency. It's a real thing.
Intentionality and efficiency. Yes. I think that's really, really important.
I hope
Thank you so
so.
much, Leah.
Thank you. I love you.
I
Mwah.
love you too. Mwah.